If you want to make a boatload of money with your rentals, you need to understand rent to own. With this process, this has completely changed our whole rental portfolio, and we're going to go over the framework of exactly how we did it, and you can too. You're going to want to listen to this whole episode because this is going to be amazing. So we were starting off as just your typical landlords. We had single family homes that were rentals, and we dealt with all of the typical, getting the maintenance calls, and the cash flow was kind of tight on a lot of the deals where, you're only making $300-400 a month, and you're responsible for all of the things with the property. And so once we started implementing the three big paydays of rent to own, my gosh, that changed everything. So the first big payday is when our renters move in with rent to own, we are now receiving a large non-refundable option deposit. And what I mean by large, the first one we did was $10,000. And when we were just landlords, we were only getting a security deposit, 1 month's rent, and that was it. So our renters didn't have any skin in the game. And when we started in upstate New York, you couldn't even collect last month's rent. So our renters were really just not even paying last month's rent. And they were saying, let the security deposit pay that. And then they'd move out and leave the place, a little bit of a mess, sometimes even more. They wouldn't pay the water bill, and the water bill stayed with the house. So there were so many reasons why we realized we want to change our strategy. So we went from getting a security deposit to a large non-refundable option deposit when our renters moved in, 10, 20, even $30,000 or more sometimes. And that's completely changed everything. That's not a security deposit that I need to leave in a special account that they're going to get back. This is a non-refundable option deposit. So now the capital that I'm raising, I'm able to redeploy that back into my business. Maybe that's buying another rental. Maybe that's putting money into some advertising. That really changed everything. So once we converted our properties, the first big payday, that large non-refundable option deposit. And when my renters buy the house, that goes towards the purchase. So they love the fact, and they've got skin in the game, that this home is going to be maybe theirs one day down the road. So that's going to change everything right away. Second part that really lit things up for us was the cash flow. Now, when you are a landlord, you've got maintenance, you've got repairs, you're going to have future repairs that also come out of your cash flow. And so if your payment is 1,500 and you're renting it for 2,000, people tell me, well, Joe, my cash flow is 500. Well, not really 500, because out of that, there's maintenance, there's repairs, there's future repairs, there's vacancies, all of these things that you need to count for out of that. Now, when our renters do it, they first give us that large non-refundable option deposit once they move in. But now we're actually getting more cash flow because I'm not taking care of the maintenance. I'm not taking care of the repairs. My renters do that once they move in. They know that. They love it. So if they have, a door handle that breaks or a light bulb that goes out, they don't call us. They do it themselves and they fix it. And this is part of the reason why our renters love this program. It's like almost having training wheels to homeownership. So in the very beginning, they've got some skin in the game with a large non-refundable option deposit. They're handling the maintenance and repairs. So the actual cash flow is true cash flow. And that's one of the things I loved about it. And as far as future vacancies, our renters are planning on staying there until they could buy the house later on. And for the small, sometimes reasons why they don't, I've got a really big deposit still either sitting in my checking account, or a portion of it I still like to keep just for those rainy days, right? So the first big payday, once they move in, large non-refundable option deposit changes everything. When we did this with 5 rentals, boy, that summer we did raise a lot of capital that helped us buy more deals. Then we were getting more cash flow per door, which was the best. Without the phone calls, this was the game changer. If you've ever rented before, many times with a security deposit and just a traditional renting, you're almost like an adult babysitter, right? They're calling you for every little thing. They don't treat it like the same as they would if it was theirs. So it's a little bit different experience. Our clients that are in our rent to own program are much different than your typical renter. So this was really aligning for what I wanted to do. So I'm making more money up front. I make more money every month without the calls, right? And then what happens is that final big payday of when our renters cross that finish line, and now they're a homeowner. And so what does that mean? That means they finally were moved into the house. They gave us a large non-refundable option deposit to move in. They've been paying rent on time for years now. And now it's the ending date. Now it's time for them to get ready to buy the house. And once they do and they qualify for that mortgage, that's when we get the final big payday, the back end check. And that's usually the biggest check of all. Now, I know sometimes people think, well, oh my gosh, you're losing one of your doors. And that is true. However, that check is so big when we get that, we're able to roll that into 2 or 3 or sometimes even more deals. So if we lose one, the goal is to pick up 2 or 3 more. And so I'm obviously then repeating that same process back to the beginning. All of those properties that we buy, we offer them rent to own. We get large non-refundable option deposits on those 2 or 3 properties. We're getting extra cash flow. And then once again, we start that cycle all over again. And so there are some things with rent to own. You want to make sure that your folks are getting properly screened. And we have a company that does that for us. It's completely wonderful. So I know it's a good fit for us and our renters when they move in. Our renters really love this program. They do. They know that we kind of just let them be. We don't come do the inspections and knocking on their door all the time. We let them just have their future home. And then when they do qualify for that last part of the mortgage, they're getting that big paycheck. And they are, or we get the big paycheck, they get the home, and they've already been living in the home. So what we're doing is we're creating wins for us and we're creating wins for our renters. And so they love it and we do too. Now, there are some times, and we've had this happen to us before, for some reason, my renters don't buy the house. I've had a few where they've relocated out of town because of a job. They know going into it how the program is set up. They know that they are tying up the sale of this house for years, and they know that deposit's non-refundable, and they're okay with that. And they want to be in the program. We don't force anybody to do it. They want it. But in those circumstances where they do move, they know that's a non-refundable deposit. They don't ask for it even back. They just say, we're so sorry we can't buy the house. My job moved out of town. Or one of the gentlemen, he found a new lady, a girl. He fell in love. He said, Joe, I've been spending most of my time at her house. I'm not even going into this house anymore, so I can't buy the house. My lease is coming up soon. If it's all right with you, I'm just going to give you guys the house back. You're wonderful. I feel bad about it. And I'm congratulating him on finding love. They were engaged. He moved into her house because she already owned a house where she wanted to live. And he moved in there with him and his dog. So what did we do? We offered that property, again, rent to own. So we've actually received another non-refundable option deposit for that property. We're still getting rent, right, with our renters who are doing this rent to own program. So this house now has been sold not just once to a rent to own person, not even just a second time. This is the third time we've had it happen. For some reasons, sometimes people just don't. It could be a loss of love, or it could be found love. It could be moving out of town. It could be so many different reasons. For some reason, they don't buy. But if you really hold their hand through the process, a lot of them do. And we kind of have the saying is like, we almost like to set it and forget it. I don't push them through the process. When they're ready, they're ready. Until then, they have a beautiful home, and we're collecting rent every month without getting the phone calls and all of the things that happen with rent. So when we changed our strategy from rentals to rent to own, this changed everything. Less phone calls, no maintenance, a lot more money up front, a lot more money every single month. And then we get those big paychecks. And we have usually a couple who buy their house every year. And that money now helps us fund even more deals that we're going to do this year. So this is one of our keys. So if you're doing any type of renting with single family homes in 2025 or moving forward, and you have one that you're considering doing rent to own on, from my experience, it has been the best way to own rental properties because we're able to make more money. We're helping humans at a different level than ever before, because now we're actually going to provide them with not just a house to live in, but with a home that they can make home and plant their roots and not have to worry about getting upended because the landlord's selling the house or anything like this. And I know from fact, from dealing with this for so long as we have with our renters, they love this opportunity, because if you go on Zillow or if you go on the internet and you look for any of these properties in your area, there's usually none. So when there are some, you do get a lot of phone calls. You're going to have a lot of people interested. Fun fact, why would anybody even want to do this? Well, it's about 18% of the population could qualify for a mortgage today, right now. So that means there's 82% of the population roughly who can't get a mortgage. So our audience who is open to doing rent to own is usually bigger than the buyers out there already. It's 1 to 5, right? So like we've got so many more who are open to doing this. So you got to find the right fit of somebody who wants to do rent to own, who can afford the monthly rent, and they've got some capital that they want to deploy towards getting their future home, and they can move into it now. They could pay rent until they're able to buy it later on. So we're actually getting them to test drive their future home. And so that's why we're creating wins. That's why we love rent to own. And this is the 3 big paydays on how rent to own works. So guys, if you have it, we like to just offer rent to own on Zillow and all of the places that we do with our rentals. We just change the wording from rentals to rent to own, and we start having some conversations and helping people. So if you want to learn more about rent to own, I would definitely stay tuned to more of these podcast episodes because we have more that we're going to share. So thank you so much for tuning in, and stay tuned. We got a lot more. Thanks.